But you were talking about the difference in not pushing your daughter too far, too fast, too early, but also your son is naturally driven like you were, but your natural drive without any brakes or guardrails kind of burns you out. And so I think the piece of this conversation that is so nuanced, it can't be that we only think about pushing our kids or that we hype them up if they're self-motivated, because a young kid who is self-motivated can push themselves too far. So there is a balance in there of like, hey kid, I know you're motivated. I know you want to go after this, but we have to see the potential pitfalls and figure out how do we cultivate that drive in a way that doesn't take them off the cliff too early. Because I have seen that happen in too many kids where they're the super driven kid who's doing all the stuff. And it's not mom or dad that burns them out. It is kid that goes too far too fast that ends up burning them out. So as someone who has been there, like you just told the story of how you got burnt out on swimming yourself, like what advice do you give for the parent who has the driven kid that you can see the potential for some danger coming up in that 14, 15, 16-year-old realm if we're not careful in how we cultivate that now?
Yeah, I think as a parent, like my responsibility is kind of pull the reins back a little bit, and as a coach. So the best coaches, like with driven athletes, they're not having to create that drive in those athletes. They're actually having to pull them back and like make sure and you talk about how you want it. This is for the long term. Like if you want to do this, like, and be successful in the long run, we're playing a long game here, right? So we're looking at the long game, not just the short run of what you can do. And so, um, with my son, like having him play all of the, like we're not allowing him to like just drive into one thing right now and try a bunch of things. And so doing all the middle school sports, I didn't do that. I didn't like when I got to middle school. I mean, I ran cross country and track and I swam. But I think it was hard. There wasn't a lot of time outside of that because I was putting so much time into the swimming, and I loved it at the time, but it like it pay, like it pays a cost. There's a cost to that because um I couldn't do that forever. And so I think that's the thing you need to like when you're discussing these things with the kids is like having them understand um okay, and you may have to like if their goals like once they get to high school is like okay, I want to get a scholarship or I want to, play D3 or play, do these things, but it's going to take some work. So maybe they are going to have to put that time in at that, like put some extra time in so they can reach those goals. But um, also balancing it with not having that be define the only part of them and who they are. And so, yeah, like making sure that you're doing things outside of just sport and not having their identity wrapped up into that. So I think those things are really, really important